Hello everybody, welcome to the Ultimate Scouting Show. Thank you for joining me. Today we have another 2023 NFL mock draft. Really excited for this, so excited the draft season is coming up. Well, let's hop into it. First overall, I have the Houston Texans on the clock, selecting Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama. Really just think that this is going to be the pick. They need a franchise quarterback. He's the best one in my opinion. I've mocked this pretty much every single time in my mock drafts, but I really think this is the pick they should go with and who they will go with. So it just makes so much sense to select Bryce Young with the first overall pick in this 2023 NFL draft. Second overall, the Chicago Bears are on the clock. I have them selecting Will Anderson, the edge rusher out of Alabama. I've gone back and forth between him and Jalen Carter on this pick for the Bears. I do think I'm going to have them select Will Anderson, though. Right now, high-end edge rushers are the most valuable position on the defense, besides maybe corner. And Will Anderson is a really, really good player from that position. I think he's more on the level of the Myles Garretts and the Nick Bosas of the world than even, some of the good pass rushers that we've seen in last draft with Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau. I think he's better than those guys. And so I'm really excited with what he can do in this league. He has so much speed to power. So excited for that pick for the Bears. Number 3 overall, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the clock from the Denver Broncos. I have them selecting Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. This guy just has so much raw power. He's very natural in his technique, and he's just a great interior rusher, very disruptive against the run as well. The Seahawks need to add to that defensive line, and this is a great way to do it with Jalen Carter in the top 3 of this draft. At number 4, we have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. They really desperately need to rebuild their trenches. I think they go with Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. I just did a scouting report on him. If you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description below. But Tyree Wilson has so much natural power and length, which NFL teams are going to covet. I definitely think he's going to go higher than people think, and he's definitely going to be a piece in this top 10. Now, the Cardinals desperately need defensive line help. They tend to value really good, unique athletes. We look at Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, drafted in back-to-back years. I think they'd really value someone like Tyree Wilson, even if it's not Keim or Kingsbury making this pick. I just think he fits what they want to do in Arizona. At number 5, we have the Detroit Lions on the clock from the LA Rams. I have them selecting Myles Murphy, the edge rusher out of Clemson. I really don't think that they're going to be taking a quarterback now. I've kind of come around to that idea. Goff has played really well. Myles Murphy, the edge rusher out of Clemson, has been very good. He's not the most productive player, but he is very stout against the run. He has a very nice long arm move. He's just very pro ready, and I think he is a very safe prospect, which is kind of hard to find in this top 10. But I think Murphy is going to be a very good player, and it kind of continues the run of edge players coming off the board real quick in this draft. At number 6, probably the first big surprise of this draft, I have the Colts selecting Will Levis, the quarterback out of Kentucky, and CJ Stroud has not come off the board. The Colts tend to value traits really highly, and I think that some teams are really going to value Levis over Stroud because we'll get to Stroud in a minute, but he does have some deficiencies when it comes to being a creator and, kind of making things happen out of structure or on the blitz. I think Levis has a lot of the natural tools that you look for. He's got the arm, he's got the mobility, he's got, some impressive plays on tape. And so does Stroud, but I think Levis is just a little bit more physically gifted, and I think the Colts may lean that direction. They need to get a quarterback. Now that they're picking in the top 6 of this draft, they certainly have a shot of taking one. I think it may just be Will Levis. At number 7, the Atlanta Falcons on the clock. I have them selecting Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle or guard out of Northwestern. Skoronski can play right tackle for the Falcons if Caleb McGarry decides to leave, or he can also be plugged in the interior. I think he'd be a very, very good guard. I just think that the Falcons need to continue to add to this offensive line and just continue to help the pieces that they've acquired offensively. I do think Desmond Ridder deserves a little bit of a shot. We'll see how he finishes this season, but if you build around Ridder and you have some of the weapons they've acquired in Pitts and London, and you get a really strong offensive line, I think that that could be a recipe for a better season in Atlanta. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers on the clock. I have them selecting CJ Stroud, the quarterback out of Ohio State. Very curious to see where he's going to go. I think there'll be very different opinions around him all across the league. So very interested to see where he goes. I still ultimately have him going in the top 8 picks of this draft here. Carolina is a quarterback needy team. I like what Sam Darnold's done, but I think you could really elevate the ceiling and the floor of this team by getting a young gunslinger like CJ Stroud in this draft with this 8th overall pick here. At number 9, we have the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock. I have them select selecting BRYAN, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. He's not necessarily the most refined player, but I think he would have a lot of potential to grow in Philadelphia next to Fletcher Cox, Jordan Hargrave, and of course, Jordan Davis, who they drafted last year. I think obviously the future of this team would be Davis and BRESEE. You would have Davis more as your nose tackle and BRESEE more as your 3-tech, your penetrating pass rusher. I just think there's a lot of development that you can get out of BRYAN, and he could be a really, really good player at the next level. At number 10, we have the Green Bay Packers on the clock. I have them selecting Jared Verse, the edge rusher out of Florida State. If you are not familiar with Jared Verse, you should get familiar. I think he is going to go higher than a lot of people expect in this draft. He transferred from Albany to Florida State this season and absolutely tore up the AACC. I think he's a just fantastic player, and the Packers could use some extra edge help. Obviously, you have Rashawn Gary, but they haven't really been able to replace Zadarius Smith's production. I think you could continue to add to that defense, and Jared Verse would be a great player to do so with. At number 11, we have the Raiders on the clock. I have them selecting Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. This just makes way too much sense for the Raiders. They need desperate help all across the offensive line. You can move Colton Miller or you can move Paris Johnson. There's just too much need on the offensive line to not take a player like Paris Johnson at this pick here. I think they'd be absolutely ecstatic if he makes it to this pick. I think that they scoop him up here. Very technically sound, very good in pass protection, and so I think he's just a great home run pick for the Raiders here. At number 12, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. I've been mocking them wide receiver, offensive line a lot. I'm going to have them taking Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon. I think he's going to be a riser in this class as well. Just insane speed. He's an absolute track demon. He's really improved his ball skills a lot as well this season. So I've just been really impressed with what Christian Gonzalez has done. I think he has a very good chance of being the first corner off the board. And I think that the Jaguars would take a swing on someone like that with really high upside. They tend to value traits, as we can see with their Trayvon Walker selection first overall last year. Christian Gonzalez could be the guy for Jacksonville at number 12 overall here. At number 13, we have the Houston Texans on the clock from the Browns. I have them selecting Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver out of TCU. Get as many weapons as possible for Bryce Young. Hopefully you get Mechie back. Maybe you can resolve things with Brandon Cooks. Nico Collins is a decent option as well. There's other directions that they can go here, but I think taking the wide receiver of their choice off the board here to pair with their young quarterback just makes a lot of sense. Quentin Johnston is somebody that has all the height, the speed, everything that you could look for from a physical profile for a wide receiver. He needs to be a bit more consistent, but I really do like what he provides, and I think that the Texans could take him at number 13 overall here. Number 14, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock. I have them selecting Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback out of Penn State. His dad played for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time, coached for them as well. So there's that family connection. I just think he fits exactly what the Steelers like. He's a physical press man-to-man corner, and he can really match up with some of the best wide receivers in the NFL, which happen to be in the AFC. You have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper in that division, so you really want to get a lockdown number one corner, which they do not have. I think Joey Porter makes a lot of sense for the Steelers there. At number 15, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. I have them selecting Trenton Simpson, the linebacker out of Clemson. He can just kind of do it all. And he's a very good coverage player. He's very stout against the run. I think he's one of the better players in this class. If we weren't considering positional value, I think he can be a really nice player in the middle of that defense next to Jordan Brooks, who has had a very nice season for the Seahawks. I think just continuing to add to the defense is really important right now. The offense is pretty solid. You could use some help in the interior offensive line, but there's no one I love for the Seahawks there. I think that Trenton Simpson would just be a great pick to help kind of mitigate the amount of points that they're giving up on the defensive side of the ball. At number 16, we have the New England Patriots on the clock. I have them selecting Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. This makes so much sense for them. They really need offensive tackle help. Isaiah Wynn is probably not going to be there next year. Trent Brown is all right, but he's old and, declining perhaps. So I think that they need to add to the offensive tackle room. They need to help out Mac Jones and this offense, which has been really stagnant. Broderick Jones just makes so much sense. He's a trench guy, which Belichick loves, and he's nasty. He's a really good player. I just think he fits exactly what the Patriots need and what they would want in this draft. At number 17, we have the New York Jets on the clock. I have them selecting O'Cyrus Torrence, the offensive lineman, the interior offensive lineman out of Florida. And I think that this makes a ton of sense. It looks like they could kick Elijah Tucker out to right tackle. You have some other options on the other tackle side as well. And then on the interior, you have Laken Tomlinson, but I really think that you could add one more piece there. I think O'Cyrus Torrence completes this offensive line. You could go and select a quarterback with this pick, but I am curious. I think they may sign a veteran if they decide to move on from Mike White. So I think Torrence just makes a lot of sense. Solidify that offensive line, really help the running game as well, which I think they'll rely on a lot next year. And, just build this offense as best as you possibly can and hope that you can get good quarterback play. At number 18, I have the Detroit Lions on the clock selecting Keely Ringo, the corner out of Georgia. This is the furthest I've had him fall in this mock draft series, but I just think that some of the other corners may have overtaken him right now. He's an absolute track star, much like Christian Gonzalez. He's very athletic. He has the length. He's very gifted. I do think some inconsistencies show up on tape that may turn teams away, while Christian Gonzalez is a little bit more of a freak, in my opinion, and Joey Porter's more of the technique kind of guy. I think Ringo is a very, very nice player, though, and a lot of upside. Pair him with Jeff Okudah, and that defense is starting to really come together for the Lions. Add Myles Murphy in there as well. This could be a really fun defensive unit for the Lions. The offense has seemingly hit their stride, so the Lions address the defensive side of the ball with both their picks here. I think it could be a really good draft for them. At number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock. I have them selecting Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. I'm not sure that they would do this, but I really think that they should. Tom Brady is probably going to be retiring after the end of this year or leaving Tampa Bay. I do not think he will be the quarterback of the Buccaneers next year. You cannot go into the season with Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask as your starting quarterback options. Obviously, you have the ability to sign a free agent or something like that, but I think you gotta swing for the fences here. Anthony Richardson is the biggest swing for the fences, but he has absolute top 3 quarterback potential in this league because of the physical traits he has. Huge arm, mobility, can really do it all. I think he could be a really, really fun pick. You wouldn't want Anthony Richardson starting year 1, but I think that you could at least allow him to grow and develop in an NFL system, and he could be your franchise quarterback in a year or two. At number 20, we have the Tennessee Titans on the clock. I have them selecting Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. I think that the Titans need to add to the wide receiver room. I really like what Treylon Burks does, but you need to get more explosive in the passing game. Derrick Henry can't do it all on the offensive side of the ball. Tannehill needs options to really be successful at that quarterback position. We've seen that before. So I think that they take a wide receiver. Addison would be a really nice complement to what Treylon Burks is. Burks is more of your true X receiver. Addison can really be that shifty route runner that is, very consistent at getting open and very reliable with his hands. I think he is a very good player, and the Titans could certainly use him with this pick. At number 21, we have the Washington Commanders on the clock. I have them selecting Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I think he is a really, really good tight end prospect, and he is certainly somebody that deserves to go in the first round based on his tape and his production. The Commanders really could use some tight end help. I know they have Logan Thomas, but he's really not been consistent in staying healthy. If you're continuing to build around Heineke, you got to give him a lot of weapons. And you have Dotson, you have McLaurin, you have Curtis Samuel. You could really use that tight ends that would really kind of open up the middle of that field for the offense. I think Mayer could be that guy. He could be a really consistent tight end too, and then grow into that tight end 1 role. So I really like this pick for the Commanders. I'm curious to see what the Commanders fans think about this pick though. At number 22, we have the Chargers on the clock. I have them selecting Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. This is a dream scenario for the Chargers. You need Jalen Hyatt if you are a Chargers fan. He is absolutely fantastic as a speed demon wide receiver. The Chargers desperately lack speed in the wide receiver room. It really prevents them from throwing deep and utilizing Herbert's arm strength. And Hyatt would really unlock that ability. He's a great deep threat, somebody that can really be a great speed option, and he needs a little bit of refinement, but I really think he could open up this Chargers offense and really provide a 3-headed monster in that wide receiver room of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Jalen Hyatt. Number 23 overall is the Miami Dolphins. They forfeited their pick due to the tampering scandal, so we will move to pick number 24, which is the New York Giants on the clock here. I have them selecting Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. He is also somebody I could see falling a little bit in this draft because he didn't play much this year at all due to injuries. he supposedly is healthy enough to play and is opting out of his bowl game. It's just very interesting to me. I think that he has shown some great things at Ohio State. His first 2 years at Ohio State were really, really impressive. He is more of a slot player. He's really shifty, understands leverages, understands, where to attack defenses, where to settle into soft zones. He's very smart, and I think he's a great route runner, has that two-way go ability. I don't think he's going to blow anyone away with his physical testing numbers. He's not a big guy. He's not overly fast. I don't think he's going to blow up the combine by any means. So I think teams could be lower on him than maybe the general public is. But for the Giants, I think it just makes a lot of sense. You got to get a wide receiver in there that can be a creator, somebody that can be consistent and get open. And I think Jackson Smith-Njigba can be that player. Whether it's Daniel Jones throwing him the ball or not, you need somebody to really consistently get open, and that's Smith-Njigba in a nutshell. At number 25, we have the Baltimore Ravens on the clock. I have them selecting Cam Smith, the corner out of South Carolina. Cam Smith is a really interesting player. He's pretty much always in man coverage, which I think makes sense for what the Ravens like to run. They're a little bit more multiple than that, but Smith is a really good man cover corner. Marcus Peters obviously getting a little bit older. They just haven't had a lot of health in the secondary these past few seasons. So I think adding depth would also be very beneficial. Cam Smith is just a high upside player that I think could really fit well in this Baltimore scheme. And it's a position of need, no doubt about it, for this Baltimore defense. So I think that makes a lot of sense for the Ravens to take there. At number 26, we have the Denver Broncos on the clock here from the San Francisco 49ers, which went to the Miami Dolphins, now to the Denver Broncos, selecting here. I have them selecting Clark Phillips III, the corner out of Utah. This is the third straight mock draft I've had this one, but it just makes so much sense to me. He's kind of that Western kid. He has his chip on his shoulder. He's not the biggest dude. He's not the fastest dude. He's not the strongest dude, but he just plays with such great understanding of the game. He's one of my favorite prospects, and I really think that he's going to be a really good player in the NFL because of his instincts, his ball skills, his just natural IQ of the game. I think that's a very good pick for the Broncos, who need to solidify that other corner spot outside of Patrick Surtain. It's kind of the one big weakness of the defense right now, and we're just completely ignoring the offense. So we are going to take Clark Phillips III with that pick there. At number 27, we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. I have them selecting Devin Witherspoon, the corner out of Illinois, with this pick. That's the third straight corner off the board, but Devin Witherspoon really fits what the Bengals like. He's a very good tackler. He's not afraid of contact at all, which is something that the Bengals value a lot. He can be a man cover corner. He can be a zone cover corner. He just has a lot of versatility. I think that, they would look for pass rushers. I think they'd look for corners and offensive tackles. And right now, Witherspoon is the best player to me at that spot. I think he could definitely be in this late first round conversation here. He has a lot of traits that you look for. He's long, he's athletic, he can hit. So definitely a player I think could rise up draft boards here. At number 28, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock. I have them selecting Antonio Johnson, the defensive back out of Texas A&M. He plays corner, he plays safety. He just gives them a lot of versatility on the back of the defense there. The Cowboys are a team that very much values flexibility on their defense. You can see that with how they utilize Micah Parsons and some of their other players here. I think he just adds a lot of, potential different schemes and different things that Dan Quinn can draw up if he is still there for this team. I think he's a very good player, was one of the better players coming into the season. Texas A&M didn't have their best year, so I think that hurt his draft stock a bit, but I definitely think he is a player that could be a very good one in the NFL. At number 29, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. I have them selecting B.J. Ojulari, the edge rusher out of LSU. He is just an absolute speed rusher, and he has a great ability to duck under blocks, to win on the outside, win with speed moves. He's not the best in the run game. He's not, able to have a lot of power in his game, but he absolutely is somebody that can attack the outside shoulder, be a pass rush specialist for you coming in, and I think the Chiefs could certainly use that. Got to get after the other quarterbacks in the AFC. Number 30, we have the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. I have them selecting Siaki Ika, the interior defensive lineman out of Baylor. This guy is a really fun player. He's kind of a space-eating nose tackle, but he's really dynamic as well. He can be a great run stuffer. He's somebody that also can get after the passer on some plays as well. Very good block shutter as well. So I think this Vikings defense could really use someone like that in the middle there. They need to get better against the run. I think Ika could really help that. At number 31, the Buffalo Bills on the clock. I still have them selecting Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas. I just think this would make this offense absolutely unfair. He can run it so effectively, has great vision. He's a very good receiver out of the backfield as well. So good in space. I think just getting someone like this would really just put the Bills offense on another level of pretty much everyone else in the entire NFL. So I just love this pick so much. I know I consistently make it, but I really, really think it's a great fit for the Bills. He's one of the best players in this class, and they're able to get him at 31 because he is a running back. So that's a great pick for the Bills in my mind. At number 32, I have the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock. I have them selecting Brian Branch, the defensive back out of Alabama. He is also kind of this corner safety hybrid. He plays all over the field. He's played outside corner, nickel corner. He's played safeties, both free and strong safety. So he just has so much versatility on this back end. He's kind of a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson replacement if you want to move on from him. But he just has so much potential to be all over the field. He can line up pretty much anywhere. So I really like this pick for the Eagles as well. Just continuing to improve that defense and really be a little bit more diverse in the concepts that they can run. That is going to do it for my 2023 mock draft, episode 5. If you like all this NFL draft content, please hit that subscribe button down below. Hit this like button as well. That helps me out so much, pushes it out to other NFL draft fans just like you. So that would mean a lot if you go ahead and do that for me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye.